Welcome to another episode of Amplify with Adam. Today we have Joe here from BCA Industries. Joe, thanks for taking a little time and joining us, man.
Thank you for
Absolutely. Well, Joe, happy Friday, man. And you want to give us a little bit of an intro? Like I kind of introduced you a little bit, but we'd love to hear, how you got into the manufacturing industry and a little bit about your background.
Okay. Well, my name is Joe Bartelt. I'm vice president of BCA Industries Incorporated. We're a contract manufacturer. We make metal goods, machining, welding, metal fabrication, and we're also an OEM manufacturer in the industrial recycling industry and size reduction industry. We started in 1998. The BCA actually stands for Bartelt Custom Automotive. We were originally doing auto customization. We were an auto body shop, and we did a lot of work. We built a lot of Pro Street cars for people and did chassis modifications and stuff. A lot of auto restoration work. And my brother, I have an identical twin brother named Douglas, and he's my partner in this. And he came from the body shop and welding industry. And so we decided to kind of partner up and started Bartelt Custom Automotive as an auto body shop. That really only lasted about two and a half years. And we were both had backgrounds in welding and machining and different stuff in industrial work. So while we were doing the auto work, we were also doing industrial contract manufacturing at the same time. And eventually it got to the point where the auto body wasn't really making as much money as the industrial work. So we just dumped that all together and basically shortened our name up to BCA Industries instead of Custom Automotive.
So were you doing the machining in the same shop as the auto body, like the whole time?
At that time, we weren't doing much machining. We were doing mostly metal fabrication and welding.
Gotcha.
And we were doing at that time, actually, we were doing a lot of industrial painting for customers. We had a rather large paint booth and a batch oven setup.
From the auto body shop as well, right?
Yeah, for the auto body shop as well. But when we weren't utilizing it for the auto body, we were utilizing it for industrial customers.
That's awesome. So when did you, it sounds like you've expanded your capabilities. Is that just kind of natural growth to add?
It's kind of natural growth. When we got out of the auto body industry and we're 100% into the industrial side, we actually used to do a lot of custom stainless steel enclosures. We did a lot of high-end enclosures for the medical industry and we did a lot of displays for Mercedes-Benz Corporation through RCS Interiors. And we kind of, as we were evolving into that, we needed more machining capabilities. So we started putting the machine shop together. And I've got a pretty fair background in machining. So I kind of took over that section of the business, and my brother kind of runs the metal fabrication section of the business.
Gotcha.
But as we grew, we just accumulated more equipment and different things, and we didn't really get into the size reduction industry or the shredder industry till around the end of 2006.
Yeah, I was going to say the OEM transition. First of all, they look incredible. I think one's called like the Big Beast or something like that.
Yeah.
I saw it take out a trash can. Like it didn't even blink. So what kind of got you guys into that in 2006?
That was actually kind of a holdover from the auto body industry. The issue is the phone book has listed me consistently in auto body repair since day one. And even as many times as I protested with them, they kept listing me under auto body repair. I think I finally got that ad changed about 5 years ago.
Yeah, just 20 years later.
Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous. But I had a guy call me one day out of the blue asking me if I could paint garbage trucks. And I told him, no, we don't do that anymore. And then he asked what we did. And we told him, I was doing prototype work for other companies as well at the time, and some other machinery engineering. And turns out this guy wanted to mount a tire shredder inside of a garbage truck. So the company that he had contracted originally, though, to manufacture the tire shredder, that deal fell through, and they needed somebody else to make the shredder head to go in the thing. And he asked me if I could design one. That's how that started.
Huh.
So we designed it for that product, or for that truck, and then we ended up getting an order for 15 more machines, and we built the machines, and then the company went bankrupt.
The company purchasing from you?
Yeah. So we got paid for about half of them. So, well, actually probably about a third of them. I had 10 shredder heads and retrofit kits sitting here, and about $300,000 in debt from it.
And what are you going to do with them except for brand them and sell them?
That's where we came up with the portable shredder, what we call our PD1000. We bought a trailer. We kind of cobbed this thing together out of anything we could find, and we kind of generated a product from it, and that's where that took off from.
Well, it sounds like the phone book mishap actually ended up being a little bit beneficial then, because
in the end it worked out. There was probably about a 2-year period where I didn't know where the next dollar was coming from, but once we got everything straightened out, it actually worked out pretty well.
So at this point, is the prototyping, machining, kind of the metal fab side, is that where a lot of the business comes from, or is it more from the shredders and the size reduction side?
Up until about 2 years ago, the contract manufacturing and prototyping was probably about 75% of our business, and the remaining 25 was the shredders. About 2 years ago, that really flipped. Now the shredders are probably about 85% of our business.
Wow, that's incredible.
And it's going up because we're getting, it's kind of the shredders are kind of an annuity. We always have machines coming back for rebuild.
Right.
So we've had to expand a lot of our business into that, because it's more consistent work as it comes back.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you guys have a wonderful website for selling the shredders, and that side of the business seems robust. When you're getting customers for the actual like prototyping and kind of the production runs on the other side of the business, are most of those local? Are you guys are very active on social media and kind of online?
Most of them,
finding your customers?
Most of them are local, and most of it's word of mouth. Like I said, we've been in the Milwaukee area here, southwestern Wisconsin area for 22 years doing this, so word gets around.
Yeah.
And there's things that we've always specialized in. We used to have a motto here: we specialize in the ridiculous. And we actually used to have a sign on the door that said that. And a lot of my customers remember that, because there's stuff projects we've taken on over the years that nobody else around here would even think about.
I love that tagline, man. That's awesome. You should, if you don't have that sign anymore, you should bring that back. That's great.
Yeah, I don't have it anymore. It was a printout that was sitting on my door, but yeah, we used to do a lot of reverse engineering here, especially at one point in time. We used to manufacture a lot of replacement parts for classic cars for a customer of mine. And like one was a windshield frame for a Kaiser Darren, and which is impossible to get.
Yeah. So
we came up with the fixturing and the tooling and figured out a way to manufacture them. And that was a product. We didn't make a ton of money on it, but I mean, that kind of gives you an idea on the type of stuff that we used to do on a pretty regular basis.
Yeah. What's besides that one, what's the most ridiculous project you guys took on?
Oh God, we have so many of them. Probably the most ridiculous, we were doing work for a company called, what was that? Evolution Motorsports, which they're actually out of business now. And they made a lot of parts. There was suspension components for Mustangs.
Gotcha.
Basically, they were doing Watts links and braces and stuff for guys that were doing circle track racing. And there was a product, they call it their spider brace, that went underneath the hood of the car. And that cluster and a half took probably 6 months of going back and forth and coming up with tooling and stuff to manufacture this thing before we were finally done with it. I think in the end of it, I probably didn't make a whole lot of money on that job. but it was quite intensive.
But it was interesting, and interesting usually equals fun and can kind of
Yeah.
help stop, learn, and grow a little bit as far as problem solving when you're
Yep.
taking
We're kind of known for building a lot of our own equipment.
Mm-hmm.
As far as, when we've got a problem here from manufacturing, we built our own tube bender, CNC tube bender,
Wow.
which I've had for years. That's gone through 3 different renditions, but when we were doing the custom stainless work, we built all of our own finishing equipment. We had automated stroke sanders and stuff that we had built. Even in the shredder industry, most of the fixturing we've built here. All of the specialized grinding equipment for the knives we built here. We try to find niches where we can automate the process in house versus we would lose our ass if we subbed it out.
Right. Now, and I was going to ask, is that seems like a core tenet is automation around the processes and innovating by building it yourself and taking a different approach there. Is that kind of a core, aspect of BCA?
Yeah, as much as we can. Yeah. And it's going to get a little more intense. We're planning on doing an addition to our building, another 10,000 square feet next year. So we're going to be able to move a lot of our rebuild and shredder stuff off to that side, so we can actually expand to the manufacturing side.
That's awesome. So what's kind of the genesis there? Is it, you've looked at kind of the market and you're like, hey, if we expand our capabilities, we can take on more work.
Yep.
What specifically are you guys looking to grow as part of that side of the business?
Well, that side of the business is a lot of our rebuild side is really taking off on the shredder heads. So that department needs its own space.
Right.
And I can get it out of the manufacturing side. And then with the manufacturing side, I need more space for welding. We just bought 2 robot welding cells, and unfortunately right now I have no place to put them because of that. So that's going to be, it's the next expansion that's coming into play. The same thing with the machining department. I can't expand the machining department to any larger machines until I can get the assembly area out of the manufacturing area.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, but we've got currently we've got the workload to support it. So provided everything stays rolling and we don't have another market crash, but
yeah, I mean that's so it's so exciting to hear about the growth. Is that because you felt like kind of a strong rebound recently, or were you guys able to weather the 2020 kind of mess that everyone got into with consistent customers and those rebuilds, et cetera?
The 2020 was our best year yet.
That's amazing. So what was kind of your strategies there? What was the perfect storm there?
The perfect storm was a lot of the shredder stuff. The shredder sales literally tripled in 2020. I think a lot of that had to do with our advertising that we put into play on it. And then a lot of these contracts might take up to 2 years to actually, when we first start talking to a customer, before they finally pull the trigger on the project or have financing and stuff in place. And the price of financing, the financing rates dropped pretty dramatically in 2020. So it made a lot of my customers that couldn't get financed before financeable all of a sudden. So, and then that changed the thing is for most of 2020 until we hit probably around October, the job shop was going gangbusters too.
Really?
I wasn't really seeing any major slowdown in the contract manufacturing side either. After October, it started to slow down. It slowed down quite a bit, but it's kind of picking up again.
Yeah,
I think you guys have probably seen that on the Xometry side as well.
Yeah, it feels like there's a ton of energy around it right now. I think part of that's the new year, and then part of that's things are starting to open back up a little bit, which is very exciting to see. So, are you guys seeing that? Have you seen the lull in October kind of come back up?
Yeah, we've seen a lot of it come back up. A lot of our smaller vendors that we deal with are still kind of slow, but the bigger ones are starting to pick up again.
Yeah, the big CapEx.
It all depends on what industries they're in.
Yeah, and that was going to be another question. Are you guys fairly industry specific, or are you diverse in a lot of your customer base on that side of the business?
We're pretty diverse. I don't know if you can get a whole lot more diverse than we are. I mean, we build parts for anything from little tiny parts for firearms all the way up to obviously weldments that weigh 5 or 6 tons.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, we're pretty diverse as far as that goes.
And what's your strategy there? Because a lot of folks when they're dealing with diverse customers, they have to when you're looking at fixtures and holding and et cetera on your machines, you have to change that up a lot. How do you guys stay so nimble?
Well, a lot of the machining centers that we have our machining department's kind of split off into 2 areas. You've got a section where you have the smaller machining centers, and then we have a large boring bar and a large gantry mill and the larger lathes. So we've got a kind of a group of people that deals with small parts and a group of people that deal mostly with big parts.
Gotcha.
And we do cross-train people back and forth as well, so they'll see a little bit of each. Because a guy that's used to machining a part that's 2 inches square all the time on a Haas, I stick them on a gantry mill with a weldment that weighs 2,000 pounds. They get a little intimidated.
Yeah.
So even though it really is the same basic processes are in place, it's just on a bigger scale.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's part of that too is just teaching your guys the basics of the processes, so they can apply that knowledge to whether it's a big part or a small part. Obviously, if I'm, we don't, some certain stuff, really tiny stuff we sub out. I don't do any Swiss turning or anything like that in-house anymore. We actually used to years ago, and then I kind of got out of it because the amount of space the machine took up for the amount of work I had for it didn't pay for it.
Yeah.
But
so, that's interesting, teaching the basics. One question that I always ask is, if you're talking to someone that's interested in getting into the manufacturing space, someone that's new to it, what's some of the advice, especially from someone like yourself? I mean, you have a wealth of knowledge. What's kind of a couple pieces of advice that you'd pass along to folks? And it may be, similar to what you teach your guys, like teaching them the basics and being able to apply that to multiple different machines.
Well, you have to get, a lot of it is the attitude of the people that you have in the shop. It's your main guys, your leads in the different areas have to be willing to train the guys underneath them, and they have to have the mindset that they're also going to be kind of teachers as it goes along. Because as you're bringing the other guys up through your system, or as they advance through the company, if they don't know the basics, that's when things just start to go awry. And we've had our own headaches through that over the years, where we had at one point in time just tried to hire people based off of their experience. And we were always looking for, okay, well, I want the most experienced guy, because I don't want to have to train them. Well, it turns out that really doesn't always work out all that well. There's a lot of guys in the field that are very experienced, but they don't want to train other people. They want to work on their machine and be on their own. And you trying to teach them a new process doesn't really work all that great.
Yeah.
It's always trying to find guys that kind of have an open mind.
So investing in the training, but also making sure that the cultural fit is right for your shop.
Yep, exactly. And, there's basic stuff that, when I bring in guys, and I'll do some of the training on, in the machining aspect, get down to the basics. They need to know how to dial in parts. They need, and how to do it effectively. They need to know how to calculate speeds and feeds for machines, and not just look at a chart.
Yeah.
There's basic stuff that once these guys have a core competency, then you can kind of put them on anything and don't really have to babysit them.
Yeah.
And that's the main thing.
You can cut them loose. They can have fun and really start to take on some interesting projects.
Yeah. Then they can, once they have that basic knowledge, then they can edit their own programs and write their own programs, or even if they have to do it at something on a manual machine, they have a mindset and a blueprint on how to approach that. It's the same thing on the welding side with the fixturing and with fabrication. The basic processes on shrinkage and how things weld together and move, and so they know how to fixture stuff. So anytime you're starting I made a lot of mistakes in the beginning, obviously, like everybody else does. And, there's somebody that was starting a business. I would say you need whatever your core business is that you want to take on. If you want to do machining, if you want to do welding, if you want to do sheet metal fabrication or something, you got to have at least one guy that is an active lead that knows that knows all the processes on it, that can train the guys coming in, is willing to do that. Whether he's very productive or not, he might not be that productive initially because he's training other people. But until you get a process down to do that, you're just kind of spinning your wheels and making a lot of junk parts.
Yeah. No, I mean, I love the idea of investing in training and investing in your people, because, that payoff, like you said, it may not have the, the most productivity in that, main time, but afterwards it amplifies later.
Yeah.
I think that's a powerful message. Well, Joe, man, I so appreciated this conversation, and I really, really love you coming on to the show. And I think that's great advice for everyone looking to get into the space, or even looking at any small business. So really, really appreciate hearing your story and BCA's story as well. Thanks for joining.
No problem. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, guys, tune in next week for another episode of Amplify with Adam. Joe, have a great day, man.
You too.